Yeah, good morning. Um, so this session is about Eclipse Theia, a new project at Eclipse Foundation, a new IDE for cloud and desktop. And my name is Sven Efting. I'm co-founder of TypeFox and Theia. And in this presentation, I want to give you an overview of what the project looks like, why we do it, what's the architecture, what's the adoption like, give you a demo, yeah, the whole overview. So let's start with what Theia is. It is some sort of new kind of IDE in the sense that it, like, contrary, for instance, to the classic Eclipse IDE, it tries to integrate existing tools like command line tools and so on and leverage them more, build less IDE-specific UI over that, but because we figured that's a lot of work and you always have to catch up with all the library or a tool developer that use command line tools and so on. It has terminals at the heart, so it's really a terminal-focused developer experience. And also it embraces the language server protocol, debug adapters, so you can reuse existing language smartness and don't have to re-implement that. And you might have heard of Visual Studio Code, and this is kind of the product that first came with this design decision to build something that is between an editor that is very simple and lean and an IDE that has everything, integrated tools for everything. I would say they are kind of, they found a very sweet middle ground spot with that, in that sense that you have the language features we all like in a Java IDE, for instance, but we don't have kind of this big UI layer, like, when for instance, the Maven plugin doesn't work well in Eclipse, it's painful. And so in Visual Studio Code, it is often terminal-driven, reusing existing code, running processes on the back end, and so on. So that's kind of the scope. And that is also the reason why actually we thought, okay, that would be something you can do. You can build a new IDE if the scope is like that, if you don't have to re-implement JDT, CDT, and so on, right? That's the only reason it would be reasonable to start such a project. But there is Visual Studio Code, and then the first question that might come to mind is, why would you implement something like Theia that actually is kind of, a VS Code re-implementation, more or less? Well, there are differences. I will go through the differences now. So the main reasons are the extensibility, vendor neutrality, and the architecture to allow desktop and cloud applications with single source. So let's look a bit deeper at that. If we look at extendability of VS Code, they have an extension model that is an API you can use in order to build extensions. They are running in a sandbox environment, so there's really only that you can use. There is no way to use reflection or any other magic in order to, use stuff that is not meant to be used. And that is quite limiting. It's basically meant to build language support, have some commands, contributions, key bindings, a little bit of views. You can build trees, and you can have some web views. But it is in no way an extensibility model that allows us to build all the applications we have built on the Eclipse platform over the years. If you think of all the different Eclipse RCP applications and so on, we use all the flexibility, right? So we wanted to have best of both worlds, basically. So we started out with an architecture that is, in that sense, similar to Eclipse. So Theia consists of different Theia extensions that are wired together at compile time. And you can compose your Theia application from these bits. And then on the underlying framework is based on a dependency injection framework, which allows you to really fine-grained hook in every kind of single method and change that as it seems fit. So we want to be able to build IDE-like products. That's the scope. Eclipse RCP has a bit wider scope to saying, well, we can do any kind of rich client application. In the web space, that doesn't make a lot of sense because there are solutions to that. So we are very specific to IDE, developer tools, engineering tools. So whenever there are things that look similar to editors and views and diagrams and stuff like that, then Theia is a really good idea. File systems included, stuff like that. You don't have to have all that. You can, of course, build any kind of rich client application, but the benefits are there once it is more IDE-like. You can build white-labeled products, so it's not only the theming, but you can really change everything you want. But then, as said, we want to have best of both worlds. We also support the VS Code extension protocol, and in that sense, it works just the same. So there are two different extension models. One is for adopters building products like we did in the past on the Eclipse platform. The other is for people building plugins that you would install, for instance, also in Eclipse, like some PHP plugin or something like that, that gives you additional features in a mainstream IDE. And for that latter thing, we use the VS Code extensions, and the good thing is there are 14K extensions out there of different quality, but a lot of very good quality, and Theia can just run them. So we don't have to reinvent all the extensions and implement and maintain them, grow a community. The community exists, and the extensions exist as well. So some examples, this is Theia IDE where we integrated Xtext and Sprotty. So this is stuff you can do easily with the extension model. This is the Arduino Pro IDE. And what is interesting here is that it looks exactly like the previous Java IDE, or like the previous Arduino IDE written in Java. So we remodeled it. So Theia provides the extensibility to just do that. It looks just the same because the goal was to, get really good acceptance by the existing community in Arduino. Though the old IDE has been downloaded more than 10 million times, and so that's a big community. And in order to onboard them smoothly, we've built the same experience. And then on the top right, there's a little button, and then that says toggle advanced mode, and then click on that, and then it kind of inflates to a pro IDE, so to say, and then you have more views and so and this stuff. And the third example is the ARM Embed Studio, which again looks quite different. So they have different arrangement, and so this right panel thing, for instance, it's just not possible with VS Code. And so these are just examples that you can build very different tools based on Theia, and people do that already. And also you see there's two of them are desktop applications, and one is a browser. But in fact, you can run all three as browser or as desktop application. The second important part is the vendor-neutral open source. VS Code has done a lot of published a lot of their code as MIT license, but if you have downloaded Visual Studio Code, you have not downloaded the MIT license thing, but you have downloaded a Visual Studio product with a different license that has additional stuff in it, like the possibility to access the marketplace, telemetry to Microsoft, and stuff like that. So that's one thing is it looks like open source, but the bits that are open source are not a product in itself. And also we have engaged with them over time. Before we started this project, we had conversations and thought, well, would it be possible to change the scope a bit in order to make it also browser, allow browser applications? And they were not so keen on collaborating because they really liked that they, could control and steer the project on their own, which is fine. I understand that, but it's not what we need. We wanted to have something that where we can all work together on, collaborate, and no single vendor is controlling the thing. Because if people like, and big companies like Arduino or ARM or Google base their products on that, it's quite risky to base something on something that is controlled by Microsoft, possible competitor. So real open source, and we make a lot, have a lot of effort put into grow the community, make it very diverse. It's super easy to contribute, stuff like that. Yeah, and the third important part is the cloud or the browser possibility. So you write your application and you can run it as a desktop app. You download it and you just run it as a regular desktop app for all operating systems, or you run it in browser. You can even do a mixture. So yeah, that's quite an important thing. And what I've seen in the past 2 years when people pick it up, almost everyone does one or the other first and saying, yeah, we start with this, and later we might go to the other place. And I've seen that a lot, that people don't know yet whether they will need a desktop app or don't know yet whether they will need a browser version of that, and are happy that it's not a decision that they have to make now. They can later just do it. And so why would you do that? Why would you have an IDE in the browser? Well, I think in the past, often it felt like, yeah, just, you can, and other things are also in the browser, so why not put the IDE in the browser as well? It's true, it makes it a bit more accessible, but I would say there are also a lot of compromises, right? So just because you can is probably not a good reason. But what an IDE to me really is a user interface to a dev environment, and a dev environment is a complex beast. So it is, the platform, including all the tools you need to compile, debug, run, profile, and so on. And we know setting this up is a bit involving sometimes. Keeping it alive, keeping it in sync is involving. And if you look at our developer tool chain, DevOps, whatever you want to call that, everything is in browser. You go to your Git repository, GitHub or GitLab. You have Jenkins. You do Gerrit, and everything is in browsers. But whenever you start coding, you are back to this. Okay, let's see. Like I need to check out and build and so on. And to us at TypeFox, the real interesting thing is, like, how can we make it so that whenever you are in your project and you want to do a certain task, I want to be able to start working, start being creative, and not going through all these things. I guess most of us have experienced like this situation where you say, I should do this little thing, but it's a bit involving now, switching my branch, going there and there, so I might just enter a ticket at least, so that's fine, then let's go away. So, but if you had no hurdles there, no friction to fix the thing, it's becoming much more easier. And we use this stuff also in the development of Theia, and it has grown the community. Like I think that is a big part also, how it makes it super easy for everyone to contribute to our project. So what we do, we call this continuous dev environments in order to, put the kind of the analogy to continuous integration. What you get is disposable, ready-to-code dev environment. So you look at any kind of Git state, and you say, okay, I want to start from there. And then, some people might say, well, okay, the setup I do once, and then, that's it. But what I think what ready-to-code really means is, you have a proper setup for that state, and it doesn't diverge too much. You have the Git state, But then it's, that's not all. You need to download all the dependencies cleanly. You need to run the build, the tests, and so on. And then you also want to have development tasks started, like the dev, like watchers or your dev server and so on. So it's, I guess most of you know oomph, right? I hope so. If you are in Eclipse world and you have Eclipse setups and so on, oomph is automating this stuff. So with oomph, you would click, wait 20 minutes, and then you have a ready-to-code dev environment, actually. And what we did basically is we took Theia instead of Eclipse, and then we put the oomph process onto the server, so you don't have to wait for that. It runs once someone commits, not once someone wants a dev environment. And then when someone wants a dev environment, it's already there, waiting for you, and you just start coding. And you throw it away. You don't do it once, and then you maintain it over time, but you do it for every task all the time. So I start probably 20, 30 workspaces a day. So, and I want to show you Theia, specifically the Java experience in this tool called Gitpod that we've developed that uses Theia and provides you this dev environment. And for that, I should maybe change the resolution a bit, right? So, so I can here, I have a button, I can start a dev environment for this issue. So this is a GitHub project, and I have an issue there for the Spring Pet Clinic. The Spring Pet Clinic is a very popular example. I hope many of you know that. It's a web application where you can enter your pets and you yourself as an owner, stuff like that. And the concrete issue I want to solve here is that when you register an owner, the first name should be optional. So currently it's mandatory, and that is annoying, right? And so I click on this button. That it comes from a browser extension. But what it really does is just it prefixes the URL with gitpod.io hash. And so the idea is, and we call this full URL a context URL. And the idea is, okay, from that URL, we can derive what you want to have. So what is the git state and we call it pre-built, like all the state, the dev environment you want to have, but also in what task are you going to do. So in this case, oh, nice, pulling Docker images. So in this case, it would open the would open a new branch, for instance, for this ticket, and also pre-configure the commit message with fixes this issue and so on. If you, for instance, open a workspace on a pull request, it brings you into code review mode, so you see all your changes on the left. You can navigate through them. You can see the changes in the dev editor. I will show that in a second. And I hope, well, this is not nice. This is super bad. I'm not sure what's going on there. 1 second, I'll start another. That might help. Yeah, so what I can explain that, maybe then you understand. It's a cloud service, and there are, you start workspaces, and at some point we have very large nodes that start, and then when there are enough workspaces, and we start a new node, and then we pre-pull images, right? So they are there. But this particular repository I created has a yeah, that image is not there, so it is pulled, and we use very bad big images, like 9 GB. So starting another one might actually be a good plan, because then I might get a node where the image is already there. Oh no, it's ready. Okay, that's good. Okay, yeah. I was scared about the internet connection, but actually no, our service was a bit slow. So this is Theia. Who has seen Theia before? Okay, many of you. Just like, yeah, there is the basic concept of widgets. So you see every kind of square here, like we have side panels with widgets in it on the left and on the right. Then we have a bottom panel. here, this is a terminal that that has kind of the build information and so on. And then in the middle, we have an editor area. But actually, there's really only widgets, and you can move editors to the sidebars if you want to, and an editor is just a widget, of course. Here in the terminal, is that big enough, or should I increase a bit? I can. So here in the terminal, you see that this is information from Gitpod saying, well, the build above took 4 minutes. So we have waited quite long currently, but that was because of the image pull. And it wasn't 4 minutes. And actually, if you look at the date here, that is September 11th. So this build ran on September 11th when someone pushed to the master branch, right? And then it runs, and it captures the state, and now it waited for us here, and for everyone who comes along, starts a workspace, we shave off this 4 minutes at any time, and it runs on carbon neutral service. So, and then the next task here is the task that actually now started, and that runs the web server. And you see on the right here, this is a web application in a preview, and I can, navigate it. I could also open it up, and then I have a full thing here. And the thing I want to change is that when I'm here in the owner and I edit an owner, I want to be able to, omit the first name. And I've done that before, so I know what to do. I have to open the person Java file. And it's super easy. I just need to remove the not empty thing here. Right? But to make it a bit more exciting, I know there is a place where it displays the first name with a white space and the last name, and that's of course not so nice. So I will write a method get full name, and then I'll check if this first name is null or this first name equals an empty string. I think it's an empty string, actually. Is empty? Is that a thing? Yeah? Yeah, you can be happy that I didn't do this. This last name. And then return this first name plus last name. So you see, while I type, there's content assist and stuff like that, or diagnostics and so on. Actually, so there is also many other things, like you can search for references in the project and then you can navigate there, and of course you can navigate back and so on. So all this tooling that you would expect from a decent IDE is there. So now I have changed that, and now I want to try it out. So I will start a debugging session. No, I have to change, have a usage. I need to have a usage of the get full name, of course. So I think it was owner details or something like that. Yeah. Here there is a use, so I say full name instead. And now I want to start a debug session. So it starts compiling the workspace, and now it launches the debug session. And I should put a breakpoint as well. I want to show you debugging, otherwise I would maybe have written a test. I should do it. So I reload the application, find owner. So if I click on this now, I get this details view, and it should stop. So it does. Right. So Then, of course, you have local variables. You can hover over this and you see what the value is. We have a debug console where you can write expressions and access the current state of the stack frame. We have the threads here and the call stack. So quite like the things you need for debugging. So now that looks good. I want to commit it. I go to the Git view. I say first name is optional. And I stage the changes. I can have a look again if I want to and see the changes here. I commit. I go to my GitHub view. Well, this GitHub view thing is a Gitpod stuff. Well, we will also have a GitLab integration for that, just to to streamline your flow, basically. You have to publish your branch because we haven't, of course, created the branch remotely. But now you push it, the branch, it's published. And then it refreshes the state and proposes you to create a pull request. So I do that. And so now I have a pull request, and I can go to that and see it here. And then what happens here is, because there is this Gitpod app running on that, we have a check, and so it immediately starts pre-building that branch. And if a colleague comes in 10 minutes or so and wants to do a code review, a proper one, they can just click on this button or this, or prefix the URL, and have a ready-to-code development on that branch in code review mode. And then they can, inline, comment, and so on. One thing I wanted to show also is the VS Code extension support, because that's really nice. As I said before, only Visual Studio products can access the marketplace legally, so you have to download the extensions from somewhere. And then once you have them, you can upload them here. And so they are uploaded to the system, and then they are also stored in the configuration in your Git repository. So everyone who starts a workspace after you've added this extension will get that extension. You can also in future have user-specific extensions overlay that. So this is a really nice extension because it gives me some power. Quite useful, actually, I think. All right, I think that's all I wanted to demo. How much time do I have left? 5 minutes? Okay, thanks. So that was a mixture of Theia and Gitpod demo. Gitpod is a service that we have on. You can use it. It's free for for public repositories. It's not too expensive for private repositories, and it allows us really to make the contribution flow on open source project super frictionless. So this is a contribution stat from August to September of Theia. You see like 34 authors, different authors have committed stuff there, lots of pull requests, so the project is very, very active. And it's also very diverse, so lots of different companies working actively on improving the experience of the Theia IDE. The adoptions have been very good as well. So Ericsson, obviously, as one of the co-founders, so we did that together with the project, initiated together with Ericsson. Then RedHat is using it heavily, and Shay, for instance. IBM is using it. Google in Google Cloud Shell. ARM, the Embed Studio example I showed you. SAP is replacing their web IDE with Theia. And Arduino is replacing their Arduino IDE with Theia. So really some credible names, very important products that all already use Theia, although we haven't even reached a major release, right? There is no Theia 1.0 yet. We are going in that direction. We need to complete the VS Code extension. So of course, first we made sure the power extension works properly, that you just saw. But then we want to also improve some other experience there. So basically, web views needs a bit more love for sure. and we want to support the theming. But we are close, actually. It's the API surface is quite big, and we are really, really happy and confident that it's working so well. We need to improve the documentation. I don't know why all these companies have adopted Theia, and we have so great contributions, because documentation is not the reason, for sure. We don't really have documentation. We also don't really have API or any contracts. We wanna say on the Theia extent, like the VS Code API, of course, is public. It's stable in the sense that the Microsoft guys take care of that. But for those who want to have kind of a deeper integration, the Theia API surface needs to have some contracts, and we are going over that, and we'll mark some most important hooks in 1.0 as stable. And we are targeting March 2020 as the release date. Right, the website, theiaide.org. TypeFox is our company where we help people learn about Theia, do trainings. We help people develop products based on Theia. We have built Gitpod, which is an excellent hosting solution for Theia. Yeah, and if you have any questions, I think there's a bit of time.